What's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to show you a technique that you can use using layers and clipping masks, wherein you can paint pretty much an entire full value using only 50% gray. So for this, I'm using Krita, but the same principle works in Photoshop, Clip Studio, any kind of painting program. So I have my sample image that I have right over here that I'm going to be referencing. And for the purposes of this exercise, I'm pretty much just going to take this part and treat it as a sphere for sake of demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a filter mask to it, and I'm just going to knock down the saturation to get rid of the color. We can worry about color another time. This video is just going to focus on value. So then I'm going to come up here, I'm going to create a new empty layer, and because of the way that Krita does clipping masks, I have to put it into a group. So on this first layer, I'm just going to take the marquee tool, since I said I'm going to make this a sphere. And I have my 50% gray here. The actual color doesn't matter, all we care about is black and white. And for this, I'm also using the airbrush. And then I'm just going to fill that in. Okay. So then on a new layer, I'm going to clip this back. I'm going to set this to multiply. And so for this, we see that on our original object, we have this spotlight here, the specular, so we know that the light is coming in from roughly this direction, which means that the shadow side is going to be here. So for this first layer, I'm just going to paint in the general shadow. And because it's on a clipping mask, it's not going to go outside of the lines. And I'm actually going to go up in a little bit here as well. And if I go too much with that, I can always take it out by hitting E and bring up the eraser. I'm just taking it back out. Okay, so that's step one. So now I'm going to create a new layer, clip it back. This is going to be color dodge. And this is, now we're going to do the highlight section, just the general section here. It's the main area of light, and there's a little bit over here as well. So I'm making my brush smaller to get some of these sections. Don't worry about getting exactly right. This is just for sake of example. We can always refine this later. And then most of this down here is also pretty light because of the reflection of the table. I'm going to paint that in as well. Okay. So that's our main area of light and shadow blocked in. Get a little bit up here because you can see it's starting to bleed into the top. I know this is not quite a sphere, but we're just going to kind of simulate that. So next we're going to duplicate this, we're going to add a new layer, clip it back, and now we're going to burn. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring back some of these dark areas. Again, we're still only using 50% gray, but because we're using filter effects, it'll actually change how this gets overlaid on top of it. And so now we can really get in here, make our brush smaller, and worry about these little lines. And I'm just going loose and quick with this. For sake of example, I'm not really worrying about like proportion or anything like that. We'll bring back a little bit of this down here as well because of the cast shadow reflecting back. And also we have this occluded area here where light isn't getting, so I'm just going to drag it straight across there to kind of simulate that for right now. Okay, so now this light is bleeding a bit too much, so one thing that we can do is, since we have these all separated out on different layers, is I can go back to my color dodge layer, and I can erase some of this back out to fix up that shape. If I do too much, I can always paint it back in again. Okay, so now we have multiply, color dodge, burn. Next one is going to be add, and this is just going to blow out some of these lights here. So like for this section. Where we have these nice hot speculars. In fact, I'm going to take this down a little bit on the color dodge layer. We're going to apply that to the add layer. Okay. So far so good. Now we have the general light and shadow areas covered. You'll notice that there's a little bit more to do on this. There's all these bumps and such that make up the texture, and all these scratches. So just to kind of simulate that, we can do this either on the same layer, or I like to do this on a new layer, just so that we're not destroying anything. We can always go back and change stuff. I use a lot of layers when I work. I'm just going to take this texture brush, which will simulate some of this dust and scratches. And so just like we did with these, you go multiply. And of course clip it back so it stays within the lines. Now this is a bit too much, so what we can do is we can bring down the opacity a little bit, and it'll give us just a nice subtle effect. And we do the same again. Color dodge, so that we get variations in the value of each of these little scratches. And again, we're going to bring it down. And you guessed it, burn layer, clip it back. And one more for add. And again, I'm still only using that 50% gray. Haven't changed anything. Okay, so now our sphere has some nice little texture to it. And if we want, we can even go back in on some of these areas and take out stuff if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that for this example, because the last layer that we're going to use, I'm going to do overlay, and this is what we call the overpaint layer, or OP layer. And once again, I'm going to clip it back, and I'm going to go back to my airbrush here, and now that we have most of the light and shadow and texture done, this is going to be for just refining details. And actually, this is the first point in this entire piece where I'm going to break away from using the 50% gray, and I'm just going to eyedrop in on these colors here and just kind of push and pull a little bit to refine it to get a little bit closer to our original sample here. And you can even pick from, if you're working with reference, you can pick exactly what color, or I'm sorry, what value is there. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, as I said. And do a little bit later over here. And this is just fixing up some of the details. You can go as much or as little as you want with this. That's your personal preference. And this is the point where you kind of go in and massage out any little mini errors and mistakes that you might have had along the way. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see how we went, except for this last layer, this entire piece, using nothing but 50% gray, and we were able to get an entire full range of value just by using these blending modes here. All right, so I hope that helps. If you guys want to see tutorial on more of like the theory behind value and exercises that you can do to study that, leave a comment in the description. If you found this helpful, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.